Yeah, so as I said, this Monday at 1 p.m., May 10th, we'll have our final. It will be multiple choice and free response. So you will have free response from your exams. We had, what, eight free response questions, usually 3 to 4 questions that had 8 separate parts in them. You will have 4 to 6 free response. Or excuse me, let me see. No, you will have 8 free response. So the free response will be the same as it has been on the previous exam. Actually, let's say it may be 8 to 10. If I can get it on the page. I'm sort of limited by the amount that I can get on the page, and that still gives you plenty of room to write. So I might put 1 question on the front and then 9 others on the back, or something like that. 8 to 10 free response. They will come from your old exams. They will not change in any way except for the numbers. Okay, so 8 to 10 free response, same as the S21 exams, the Spring 21 exams, except the numbers will be changed. Usually that's a small change, but for example, with the mirror problem that I gave you, if the numbers change, it could change the type of mirror that you're using, for example. But mostly that's going to be, can you just recreate what you did on these 4 exams for the free response? Okay? Hopefully those are gimme questions, those 8 to 10 questions. And then you will have, we usually have 20, so we'll have about 30 to 40 multiple choice. I haven't made the exam out yet, but it'll probably be 30 to 35, probably not quite as many as 40. But let's say 30 to 40 multiple choice. And the way that I'll make those, the way that I've been making those, is that I'll go through your exams. Let me give you some examples. Same as last semester, by the way, if y'all remember the final last semester. Let's look at exam 2, for example. So these, I'll change the, let's see. I might change the circuits up a little bit on these. I'm not going to change them a lot, but I might change the circuits. Like, for example, I might get rid of one of these resistors or capacitors or something along those lines. But it'll be a similar difficulty, and it'll be a similar circuit. But I might change it. I haven't gotten to that part yet, so I don't know exactly. It'll be really similar, but it might be a little bit different. Well, let's look at the multiple choice. Most of these would just change numbers. For example, here I might give you number 1, but I would give you, say, I don't know, a different type of circuit, maybe a 3 and a 3 microfarad, or I could give you, you know, two capacitors that are in parallel and ask you a similar question. So for example, if I gave you 2 capacitors in parallel and I told you this one had 12 volts and I asked you what is the voltage across this one, then you would say, well, they're in parallel, so it has to be 12 volts. For example, I'm not saying that's what the question is, or even if I've used that question, but that's how I would approach it, taking that question and then asking the same question, but in a different way, that assesses the same information that you need to process that question. You know, how are voltages distributed across capacitors when they're in series or parallel? So it might be recognizable. Like if you're really familiar with all the old exams, you might say, oh, he's taken question number 1 from exam 2 and now he's changed it in this way. Or it might not be, but it'll still be assessing the same material. For example, number 4 right here, I could change it. I could change the options. I might change this to parallel, for example, but it would still be asking about what do capacitors do? What are some of the properties of capacitors when they're in circuits? By the way, if it was capacitors in parallel, the answer would be B. I think the answer here was supposed to be D for this question, but if I change it in that way, the answer would then become B. Something like number 5, I would probably just take that and change some of the numbers. So maybe change this from 1200 to 1000, and change this from 4 minutes to 2 minutes, for example. I'm not saying I'm doing that, but that's sort of the process that I go through as I go through these tests. Number two, I'll probably give you a different circuit with different numbers, but it would be a similar difficulty type circuit. So for example, I could give you a circuit that looks like this. It's a different circuit, right? I have now two capacitors in series along with one in parallel to those two. So it's quite a bit different from the original circuit, but it's a similar difficulty and a similar process that you go through to answer the question. Okay? So similar to the old exams, actually a lot similar, but not the same. The way that you go about studying for this, the final, is to study the old exams. When you study the old exams, it's still useful to look back at the old exams from this semester, is what I mean. And as you study those, it's still useful to go back and look at previous exams, because as you look back on those previous exams, you'll say, oh, well, this is a really similar question to the one that he asked here. So you can use those to practice for the final exam here. Okay? Is everybody clear on how I'm making the final? The length, as I said, is going to be 8 to 10 for your spots, where you'll be able to get full or half credit, and then 30 to 40 multiple choice. Probably more to the low end of that, 30 to 35. Any questions about it? We will have a help session on Friday. I think, did I tell you about a help session yet? I said 3 o'clock, right? Did I say 3? I think it's in Beauregard 104, if I'm not mistaken. Did I tell you that? Okay, yeah. Excuse me, CS, the chemistry building, 104. So, we'll have a help session then. I know that some of you might have questions right now, but I think that I'll probably put those on hold and we'll just address those in the help session. If you can't make that help session, it is after all the finals are done, but if you still can't make it, I'll record it. You will be able to get extra credit for that help session. So if you're not able to come, you can take notes from it. I recommend that you do, if you can't come, that you go back and you watch it and even take notes just if you remember things. But you can get extra credit for that, and if you attend, you get extra credit without taking any notes. Any questions for me? Yes, so see, are the 18 questions going to come from the same thing? Yes. In fact, I tried to take this one question and you can hear it. And one question has 2 to 3 parts. So when I say 18 questions, I mean there's 18 parts of questions. There will really be 4 or 5 questions too. From the previous one. I will take the previous one from the previous one. And they're going to change very little, except for the numbers. Okay? And I try to take one from each exam. Sometimes there's 2 questions, sometimes there's 3 questions. So that's why I say 8 to 10. The final exam on third degree, or I don't know third degree, warm. The final exam is 150 points. So it's worth more than a previous exam. That could be a day on easy, right? Because it's worth more than there, it's just more than it's the second time we tested on it. So, should be an easier exam than that. But it is also worth it. And if you don't do well, you're kind of out there, you have to very hard, and it's really for your exam. I don't want to see that. So, don't take that. I'm looking forward to it. Okay? Any questions? We're at an argument. This is in this room. This is easy. Yeah. I think some of our seats are still. I think they're just picking up the fight. So probably not. I'll let you know. Okay. So I'm going to hang back later for the rest of the exam, and then after we pick that up, we can go. I'll be around if there's any questions about my grades in the exam, or questions about questions and things. There's no one who can email or call me.